Hi, Kat here for Lightwave Digital. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to create grass using DP Verdure. Now part of Lightwave 2025, these plugins were previously available as third-party, available from Dennis Montagnier, and they've been used extensively for everything from video games to full-on architectural rendering and visual effects for creating anything that has to do with foliage, grass, even used for other purposes. We'll get into that in a second, but let's start talking about how the DP Grass tool works. All right, to do this, we need some type of geometry to put grass on top of. Now, this can be almost anything. There are some caveats, though. It really just needs something as a polygon or set of polygons to apply it to, and we need to have this in the foreground layer here. So let's start with something simple. Let's go and create a box. Okay, so we're going to hit N once we've got the box tool going, and I'm going to bring up the properties panel for it. And we don't need any height on this box. It could be a flat plane, but let's add some segments to it. Let's say we've got 15 X segments by 15 Z segments. So we've got a flat plane that's been split up 15 times on each axis. So it's about 1 meter in size. I think maybe we'll go 2 meters and 2 meters depth. That feels a little bit better. Let's hit enter on that so it creates the polygon. And before we get started with the actual DP Grass tool, let's go and find a nice position here for us in the perspective view, and then go up to map, and we're going to look for some of these tools here, specifically airbrush. But before we start with a airbrushing tool, we need a map to actually put the airbrush tools on. So we need a new weight map. Okay, we're going to call this grass placement, and we're going to set the value to 0 for initial value. So you won't see any change in the perspective view with the weight applied. We need to see weight shade here for that view. And the reason for it is because the map has been set. You can see it down here. And it's got 0 value, so there's nothing on it. So we need an airbrush tool here. And then using the right mouse button, we can increase and decrease that size of the brush, and then we can start painting. So I'm just going to do like a little bit of the edges and maybe the corner up here, and give ourselves a nice little grassy path. Okay. So pretty good. That's all we need to do. All right, going back to the Create tab where I have these buttons already placed, let's go and choose the DP Grass tool, and you'll see a representation of grass being generated by the grass tool, but this is virtual right now. It's not activated just yet. So let's press N to bring up the grass tool. And a couple of things. Similar to the other tools where it was DP Foliage and DP Tree, you have a max preview of the amount of items that you're going to be working with in the preview, and these previews being represented by these orange blades. If you want to match the amount, so you get a really good idea, in essentially a perfect idea of what the blades are going to be doing in terms of the number, you can match these numbers from max preview number to grass number. Now, depending on the speed of your computer and how much patience you have with it, depending on what you're working on, you can increase these values without really much of a penalty. And we've got a lot of grass here. Now you're probably asking, well, what was the point of using that weight map or creating one? Well, we have a density weight map control here, and we're going to use grass placement. This will provide us with the ability to generate the grass more densely where the weight has been focused. So we have a weight map coverage of 100% and the grass distribution of 2. If I set this to 0, we shouldn't see any grass spread out anywhere else other than that weight map location. And it will obviously be driven by how heavy that weight map is based off of 0 to 100%. So if we drop this down, you'll also see that it'll fill in the blanks a little bit where there isn't any value. And of course, distribution can spread it out a little bit more if you want. There's an iteration control, just gives you a little bit more variability. Then we've got a grass type. Now I prefer to use double grass plus. This just gives me a nice clean UV when the grass is generated for the blades, and it seems to handle it just perfectly. I don't really need to worry too much about it. For something that's up close though, you might want to go to quad grass, or if their grass needs to have kind of like a cylindrical look to it, you're going to want to try to look at quad cone or tri-cone. But for right now, double grass is just fine. We've got some additional functions in here, but I want to talk about this get weight map button. This is something that I don't recommend using, at least in this version of Lightwave 2025, because this is not actually in the original documentation for DP Verdure. And as a result, if you try to use get weight map and then create the grass, you will get a crash. This is a new function, I believe, that was put in. I don't know if it's actually complete. Hopefully we'll get an update soon where this actually works nicely. But I believe that this is to fetch any new weight map data that you might be working with. Although I think just hitting none and then going back to grass placement, it'll just reload that map data anyways. So I'm not exactly sure why this button is here at the moment, but we'll find out once we get an update. Grass segments just basically determines how many segments the grass blades have. I'm going to move the window over here a little bit and we're going to zoom in and we're going to see that the grass blades actually have a segment control that basically splits them down the stem of the grass. So if you got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, of course, this is adding more geometry as we go. So if you don't need a lot, don't use a lot, and you'll get to where you need to be. Let's zoom back out a little bit here. And you can see those individual segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. All right, now there are additional controls here. Obviously, the grass length. You want to go for something short, you want to go for something tall. You got your grass scale and a plus or minus value. This helps to break things up in terms of the height and their size. Polygon limit direction, basically this is just a twist factor. This doesn't really work on certain types of grass types. It's meant for other types of grass types that you can use here. So be advised that that's a function that's really only going to drive the twisting of the grass based off of that type. And you can also use size by polygon, which will basically even it out based off of the polygon size, which is the size of each one of these polygons on this larger piece of geometry that we've got. Don't like to use that for something like this because I want as much variability as possible. So I can change my grass shape, my grass bend. You can make it stand up more straight. You can change the shape of it. And because this tool gives you real-time feedback, it's actually quite nice to be able to see what you're going to get based off of that weight map. And if you're matching your preview number for the grass number, you should see real-time changes as is when you actually hit make grass. Now, there's seed variability in here, so you can change this up. Anytime you want to randomize things, there you go. But let's talk about these last two functions, the grass curling and the plus or minus value for that, and of course a function called crook. Now crook basically determines kind of like how much grass is going to be weighed down by itself, and you can go forward or past 0 degrees just for more randomization, randomability. And when you're satisfied with the look of your grass, you hit make grass. Okay, and then we can hit T for transform, and our grass is there. So when we zoom into this now, we've got some really nice grass, and we're going to go and change to texture shaded mode or textured mode right now. And we can see that the grass has really nice shape to it, and it is indeed quads. So if we want to select all this grass, we certainly can, and hit tab to subdivide that grass, and it'll be subdivided grass. You can bring it to Lightwave layout and do some lovely control and render settings with it. But one of the things I want to show you just before we leave here is the fact that there is a UV that was created for this grass as well. So when you're in the surface editor, you can use an image map applied to this grass, and we'll just give ourselves a little bit of a color change here just so we can see it differentiated from the background polygon. Okay, so we'll go 80, 85%, give it some translucency, and if necessary, smoothing, of course, and double-sided. And there you have your blades of grass. Now, this is obviously just the preview and modeler. When you bring this over to layout and you start texturing it, you're going to want to use the grass UV, bring in a scanned piece of grass or a photograph, or put something together in Photoshop and use that as a texture map for it. And you will get extremely good looking, realistic grass, and it will be ready to go in your renders and your animation. We've got a little grassy path here. All right, so that is the DP Verdure grass tutorial. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out the tree and foliage video, which is also available here on the Lightwave3D.com channel.